We are back for week 4 of the Tour de Zwift. Stage 4 is in London. And lower expectations than last week, I think. Last week, everything sort of, all the stars aligned. This week, not expecting the same. But we are in the front to start. As a reminder, we're the guy in the B here. B for bicycle. Typical hard start. So you can see here the profile. Fairly flat, a couple bumps, and then a hill. We'll draw some more detail here. So a few bumps at the start, one bump, bigger bump here, slow incline here, the main hill, another little kicker after the main hill finishes, descent, one more kicker, and then a little bumpy right at the finish. So with that profile in mind, I was not overly optimistic. It seemed more similar to the first or second race than the third race. Not so in the second race there was the one hill at the end, and I think it was shorter. And there were a couple more hills in between. And then the first race we had the two hills, one at the start, one near the or one in the middle, one near the end. But what I was really worried about here was all the flat sections, and you can even see it here. But it's already stringing out. I'm having to ride. We're over 2 minutes now in, and I'm still having to ride at a pace that is not, frankly, sustainable for me for the long term. A lot of these guys, not all of them, a lot of them weigh more than me, so they're doing more raw power, and the long-term sustained raw power is really my strong weakness right now. My main weakness right now. Short term, as we learned last week, relative to all my other stuff, it goes really well. The other thing that was made me less optimistic this week, and you're sort of seeing the effects of it here, is my main indoor trainer had a bearing fail, so it's out on warranty repair right now. It's up in Wisconsin somewhere. Hopefully, I'm not sure if I'll have it back for next week, but I should have it back for week 6. But in the meantime, I have an old fluid trainer. And then I'm just getting the power data for my pedals. So you can even see here in the bottom left, you can see that wheel going. Normally there's no back wheel on my bike, it's just the cassette is directly hooked into the resistance trainer. So with that in mind, this is just a fluid trainer, so it basically increases the resistance based off how fast the wheel is going. Normally with the direct drive trainer, I'm getting resistance based off the information it's getting back from Zwift. So for example, going up a hill, it would say there's more resistance. Here's that main hill. So I really wanted to tack up this hill, just real quick note. And also noting the power-ups. I wanted to have a feather for the climb. So I wanted to tack up this hill, make sure I'm still with the main group. Trying to use my standing technique that I picked up last week. And then probably the arrow on the downhill at some point. Yeah, there's my arrow power up, just trying to stay in contact with the front group. So yeah, going back to the direct drive trainer, the wheel on trainer versus direct drive trainer. So with this one, really I'm controlling the resistance. And also, secondarily, because it's like a cheap version, the max resistance is not very high. Like if I'm going at my highest gear, which is I think a 5011, I want to say, at about 130 RPM, the resistance is still only like 800 watts, so I'm not going to be able to hit the 1200 watts that I could normally hit on the direct drive trainer. So with that in mind, any sprint that I wanted to do at the end, I was like, okay, I'll have to do a longer sprint rather than a shorter sprint. Spoiler alert, didn't end up mattering, but it was something I had in mind. And then the other thing is, like, when you have these little bumps in the course, typically, like, if you're getting the resistance back from Zwift, you can just sort of feel that and power over with a couple pedal strokes. But with the direct drive trainer, with the more consistent power output, which really just depends on the gear you're in and the RPM, you'll naturally fall back just a little bit if there are any small bumps. And then on top of that, I thought it would be more difficult to stand up because like I said, it'd have to be in really high gear, and it'd be tough to get into a low cadence, high gear, high resistance with this trainer. So I wouldn't be able to do any like extended low RPM stuff like I had done in the training for last week, which we showed off. So in this spot in the race, I was feeling, okay, maybe we'll be able to hold on, because I actually have been able to sit under 200 watts for a while. You can see at the bottom here, we've been in the green. We have to go up to the yellow a little bit, but still kind of under control. This was one spot where, again, I really wished I had steering. I kept going off to the right of the group, and I really wished I was in this main pack, because I feel like it would have helped me just be in the draft a lot better and waste less energy. But you'll see that basically until the climb, a lot of the times I drift off to the right. My guy, I have no control over it, but I really like to be in this main group to the left. But whatever, I'm sure it's just the way that they help sell their product. Your performance in the races will be better if you have the steering, but whatever. Yeah, so I thought I was feeling okay, but then after we go through that sprint, people start ramping it up again. You can already see it stretching out in front of me again, and soon enough I'm like, okay, we're gonna have to go back over 200 watts for a sustained period. And that was like, I already knew at this point I was kind of doomed, because I really needed to be able to go into the hill with a little bit of freshness, but already here I'm having to push, and it's getting really strung out, and I was like, man, that's not going to be good. And again, we're up in the oranges again. Going between yellow and orange instead of yellow and green is not what I want to see happening. And on top of that, I was really hoping to get a feather at that last banner, but instead I got the stupid arrow power up again. So that was another thing working against me. But I was able to get up after that sustained effort back into the main group again, and it calmed down a little bit, but still not great. One other thing I thought about when I was looking back on this is maybe another way I can improve my performance is changing my bike positioning a little bit. Like, I don't know, the way I'm sitting here, it doesn't look powerful. Like, when I stand up and get on the pedals, then it looks powerful. But the way it is right now, I don't know. When I'm sitting there, I don't feel like it's inefficient. But looking back at it, it doesn't look comfortable. It doesn't look smooth. So I was thinking about maybe moving my seat up and forward a little bit, see if that could help at all. And again, you see, here I am. Like, I'm off to the right side, so I use my power up. And like, I might as well just use it on a descent somewhere. But again, I really wish that I was in the main group. But yeah, anyway, something I'm thinking about is, yeah, trying to change the bike fit a little bit, see if that helps me get more power, recruit different muscles potentially. Just something I'm thinking about. One other thing to note, we have the big group here. There's one guy off in front. I don't know who that was. It might have been the guy who was just way stronger than everyone. There was one guy who, I don't know how he ended up in our category, but he was way stronger than everyone. He ended up winning. And really, if you're sitting out in front for the whole time and you're just chilling and we're all here like trying to recover before the climb, yeah, you're in the wrong category. So I wasn't worried about that guy at all. I was like, okay, well, maybe I'll just hold on to these guys. Another little rise. I have to shift up. I'm trying to stand up and get on the pedals, and you can see it looks more athletic there, but I don't know. The roundedness of my back, I feel like I must be losing some power there somewhere. So we're coming into the last bit before the climb here, so there's a little bit of downhill, and then through the tunnel, and then we start the climb. So one other mistake I made is I didn't scout how long the climb was, so I wasn't exactly sure how to pace myself. Really, I was just trying to hold on to the wheels in front of me. And even here, like going into the climb, like I'm already sliding off the back just a little bit. And then somehow, yeah, I don't know. Again, I think this is a situation where if I had been with the direct drive trainer, I wouldn't have been off the back and then in the front immediately again. But whatever, it didn't end up making the difference in the end. It's really down to my fitness, but I am looking forward to get that back. So here we are starting the climb. Really, my idea was just try to hold on to the people in front of me and see what happened. And I didn't know how long it was going to take me, which I probably should have if I was trying to set good expectations, but something to look up for next week. And yeah, so there's one steep part here. This, like going up to this red part, this is a smart place to use a feather if I had one. You can see these people are using their feathers maybe a little bit early. I would probably use it a little bit later just to make sure it overlaps with that red part, because that is the steepest part of the climb. But all the feather people are up, so I'm like, all right, you know, I'm only in the top half. Maybe some people will start falling off once their feathers fall off. Just trying to stay optimistic here. Pushing 240 watts, which I can probably do. As tired as I am from the earlier part, I could probably do that for about 5 minutes. But unfortunately, the climb ended up being longer than 5 minutes. But you'll see here I'm powering along, trying to hold on, sweating up a storm, and people are just riding away, and we're all strung out, almost single file at this point. I'm passing people, so I'm like, their feathers fell off. I'm feeling stronger. Maybe things will turn around for me. Maybe we can keep going. But unfortunately, soon enough, it was like, okay, well, I can't hold on this pace either. So you can see I'm already dropping off down. I was in the 230s. I was like, the climb is so much longer. There's no way I'm holding 240 all the way to the top. So I back off just a little bit, 10% or so, and yeah, just continuing up the climb, trying to hold on. There is one person, let me check my other monitor real quick. One person who I wanted to see how they got away from me. It is Andy Kershaw. Is he already way up the road? Yeah, probably already way up the road. There's a guy, Eddie Kershaw, who was about my weight and did about my power average overall. So I was trying to see like what they did differently to finish far ahead of me, but I don't know, I didn't see it. It's not worth going back and looking for it in the middle of this video. But we're continuing up the climb, one more long stretch. I think this is the last kick loop back, and yeah, people are just passing me, and at this point I'm like, maybe I can catch back up to these people for the descent. I'm also at the same time looking behind me, trying to see how many more people are going to pass me. But when this gap opens up, that was the beginning of the end. I never, spoiler alert, but I never caught the people who are in front of me here. I had watched like a recon of this, and the guy was like, don't give up, don't give up. You can still catch up at this point. And I remember noting like this white stuff on the road. I was like, okay, I'm not giving up. I kicked my power up again, you can see here. And I was like, all right, I'll just try to hold on. Maybe I can catch these people. I see the end of the climb here at the top. If I can hold on to those people, that would be really beneficial for me in the flat part at the top, and then also the downhill. Because again, with my lower raw wattage, I know like if I'm alone on a flat section or on a downhill, I'm just not going to catch up to the people in front of me. It's not going to happen. So I was trying, I was pushing, and it seemed like maybe they were getting closer, but I had to back off again. And at that point, they just went away, and it was all over. I was mentally accepting that I was not going to be finishing in the top 40 of this race, but still I wanted to give it a good effort, so continuing to push towards the top of the hill. And then one other thing about the direct drive trainer, or I guess the wheel on trainer, is like when you do crest a hill with the direct drive trainer, like you get that palpable sense of relief, like, and then you're like, okay, yeah, I should probably try to ramp up the effort again, but at least you get a couple seconds of relief. Whereas here on my wheel on trainer, like it's just my RPM and the gear I'm in. So since I'm not changing gears here, I crest a hill and it's still the same effort. It feels like the hill didn't end, even though like visually I'm going faster. In my legs, I got no sense of relief. But I did back off just a little bit more. I went down a gear, I think, for this flat section. Got another power up. This would have been a good spot for an aero power-up with the downhill section, but there were a couple of kickers that I noted earlier, so the feather was going to be okay. I had to decide whether I want to use it on the kicker here or the one near the end, and I thought this one I could probably power over and then use it at the one near the end to try to catch up to people, especially because these people were coming up behind me. I was like, okay, I'll just power up this hill and stay with them, and then on the descent I'll stay with them, and then in that last final kicker, that's when I lose my feather. But I just did not have the power at this point, man. I tried to stand up and go for it, and I had to sit back down before the hill was even over. I don't know, I was exhausted. I just didn't have it in the legs today. And yeah, when those guys right away, I was like, oh man, I'm really just, ugh. And I was hoping nobody behind me would catch me, so One thing you can do on Zwift is if you're going over 60 kilometers per hour, which is 37 miles an hour, on a downhill steep enough, you can stop pedaling entirely and you'll maintain your speed. So I did know that. I was able to take advantage of it here. You can see here, like, I'm doing 0 watts. The guy in front of me, he's still powering away, and I'm actually catching up to him. So unfortunately for K Groves, he didn't know about that, and also the people behind me. But it's a huge thing to take advantage of if you're on a downhill, is the super tuck, because you can see here I'm getting a really good recovery. My heart rate's dropping down about 30 BPM. And yeah, at this point it's really just a question of when do I need to start pedaling again, so I don't like lose my speed, because once you start pedaling you lose your super tuck. Then if you do it too early, then you're wasting power. If you do it too late, you're dropping too much speed. And I thought maybe I'd be able to catch up to K Groves here, but I got a little bit too greedy right at the bottom. My speed dropped 6 or 7 miles an hour before I started pedaling again, and that was probably a mistake, because yeah, I was unable to catch the guy in front of me. But I'm back on the power, about, you know, my sustained power maximum around 200, 210 watts. Coming up here, this is where I'd planned to use my feather, so I go ahead and use it for this little bump, and then I was a little worried it was going to run out early with this flat section, but it actually did end up holding over this main hill. And I thought, here, maybe I can catch this guy. But he was able to sustain the power over the top of this better than I was. And once we got onto this flat section, he was already around the next corner. And yeah, that was... At this point, I saw, okay, there's no way I'm going to catch the guy in front of me, so I'm just going to try to hold off the people behind me and then see how I can do on the last sprint. So I had done a similar route to this earlier in the week again. And I knew that they had markers for 300 watts, 200 watts, 100 watts, sorry, 300 meters, 200 meters, 100 meters near the end. But I didn't know how long that would take me, so I wanted to sort of calibrate that. So I was like, okay, I'll sprint with 300 meters to go and see how long that takes me. Unfortunately, it wasn't a very powerful sprint just because I was so dead. But I did learn, like, you'll see here, it's about 30 seconds for that sprint. So we're coming up to the very end, a couple of those little bumps. Just trying to get ready for the sprint and looking for those signs. And so coming up here, right before this next turn, I think we'll see the 300 meter marker. Yep, so 300 meters. So I start my sprint. I think I went up 1 gear and I increased my RPM by about 10. And even, this is a pathetic sprint, man. For 30 seconds, I'm only able to, not even able to do 300 watts. At the very end, I see the finish line coming up. I'm like, oh! I don't know. It was rough. 43rd. Yeah, obviously not nearly as good as last week. Not even as good as the week before, because it was 43rd out of 110. Whereas the previous one, we were top 25%, I think. So it's probably more similar to the first week. And you're not going to win them all. This one was clearly not to my strengths, and it helps me realize where I need to focus my training. It's in this 20-minute power and more. It's being able to sustain long efforts and increase that wattage, because short efforts, clearly from last week, my relative strength, I barely even train that. I don't need to train that. But these long efforts, and we can see it here even. So if we look at this was this week. My 20-minute power was 211 watts. And the climb, by the way, was about 10 minutes. So I'm sure that included those 10 minutes and then the 10 minutes preceding it, because obviously there was nothing after it for a while. But these 20 minutes, 211, whereas compared to last week, these 20 minutes was an average of 218 watts. And it was like a lot than a little, a lot than a little. So I really need to work on my sustained power, see how I can improve that. Because yeah, this was a humbling experience, I would say. Yeah, and then if we look at Zwift Power, the people who were signed up for Zwift Power, so this was the guy who was just way stronger than everyone. 3.8 watts per kilo for the whole race. Yeah, he was in the wrong category. But he'll be up in category D or category B next week, so won't have to worry about that. There's always new people coming in who sometimes get misplaced, but not a big deal. So I was expected 32nd, and I finished 35th. About what I was thinking with this race, with my lower expectations with the course profile and the limitations of the fluid trainer. I'm not like super disappointed by it. It's probably about what I was expecting. But you know, last week was such a good surprise that I was like, maybe something good will happen. No. But next week we'll be back. Not sure which trainer it'll be on. We'll see if we change the bike fit. And then next week is not Richmond. I know I've been talking about, maybe next week's Richmond. I've been saying that for 3 weeks now. Richmond is week 6. I don't know where next week is, but it's not Richmond. But we'll see you then.